So we have yet one more thing. And I cannot promise you that this is going to work, but we want to allow all of you to write JavaScript in your AMP documents.
We're here at AMP Conf 2018. There have been two exciting announcements here for developers. The use of JavaScript in AMP, and also something called web packaging. We're here with Malte Ubl, engineering lead for AMP, to talk about some of these things. How about the whole idea of JavaScript in AMP? So I know that you can use that a little bit right now in limited context, but the whole idea was AMP, no JavaScript. But now, possibly JavaScript.
Yeah. So the idea was not AMP, no JavaScript. The idea was good user experience. JavaScript being like a Turing-complete programming language, it's really hard to reason about what it might do once you have it, right? And so me being like a very pragmatic person, it's like we'll just not have it. It's like problem solved. Yeah, so we were always thinking like, we might bring it back in the future. And so now that future is closer, right? I mean, if you've seen my talk about yesterday, I was very careful about whether it's going to work, because that's certainly not guaranteed, but we're gonna try.
So this is a work in progress still.
It's a very much of a work in progress.
And security, I imagine, is a prime concern here. You want to have web workers really be separate from the main thread and not be able to do something nefarious.
Yeah, maybe I should talk a little bit about that web worker thing in general. So they are a way to essentially have separate shared nothing threads running your JavaScript. And the main thing about workers is they don't actually have access to the page DOM by default. So they can't
touch the DOM.
Can't touch the DOM by default, right? Or using the native mechanisms. Everything you do there cannot block the main thread. So if you decide, for example, to just write while true, your program won't do any interesting things, but you can still, interact with the carousel on the main page if you have more than one core. There has been no successful use of web workers for the type of stuff we want to do at scale. A lot of people have experimented with it, and there's like some sample apps and maybe one or two sites out there that use the technology, but it hasn't been applied at scale.
So if I have JavaScript then in a worker, can I use things like React and Angular now all of a sudden with AMP?
So it's basically the goal, especially for, we talked about the workers and how they have no access to the DOM, so React uses virtual DOM. And so there is this pretty clear separation of where you might have a virtual DOM on the worker. And then the code that actually applies it to the real DOM runs on the main thread. And that's kind of actually how we envision people to write code with this. And so React is actually a really natural fit. We write our prototype with Preact. That's a React-compatible alternative that's just really small, which obviously, because we care about performance, is something we also care about, like JavaScript file size.
So you can make changes to your mirror DOM over here in the worker, and then send a message to the actual main thread saying, make those changes to the actual DOM.
Exactly.
I think I kind of get it. That's exactly the goal. That's really interesting. And then URL structure is also being different. So people complain sometimes, my site on the cache, the AMP cache says google.com, all that stuff. So that might go away.
Yes, and I'm super excited about that because I guess contrary to popular opinion, this wasn't by design, right? And this wasn't something the AMP team was super happy with in the first place. It was, again, just a technical limitation. So we've been working behind the scenes with the Chrome team quite a bit on figuring out how can we create new web standards to enable showing the actual publisher URLs, even though we would keep all of the benefits, the privacy-sensitive pre-rendering, etc., from the cache. And web packaging, as it turns out, seems to be a really promising solution to this problem.
So what is web packaging then? What does that mean?
So the idea is that a web publisher creates a package of its content that includes text and images and whatever else you need to display a page. And then you take that package, you sign it cryptographically, and then you send it to whatever caching infrastructure you want. And then the cache can serve that package. And the browser can figure out, OK, the identity of that package comes from another domain. So it's been signed by ampproject.org, for instance, but it's running from a cache. And so that means we can show the actual URL of the publisher instead of the cache, because the integrity of the package is still intact.
I think I understand. So it might be served from somewhere else, but we know because of cryptographic signing that this actually comes from a different domain. So the browser feels safe in saying, this is from the other domain.
That's right.
Even though it's served by someone else. It really belongs to the original domain.
And the Chrome team actually has been able to develop a prototype really, really quickly. We saw it on stage yesterday. This is working in a build of Chrome. And so I think it's quite promising. I think we'll see it in Chrome fairly soonish. But of course, the problem is that we want every browser to support it.
Yeah, if that works out, if browsers support this, then web packaging can be used not just in AMP, but in other contexts as well.
Yes, exactly. So I think it has a huge number of use cases. It really makes web content portable. And it makes it portable in a way that preserves security, preserves identity, and that's just good for the entire web.
Thanks for being here, Paul. This has been live at AMP Conf 2018. To see the talks themselves and to see more of this, tune in or subscribe to the AMP channel.